I'm Gareth Icke, son of David. So I've been around information for a long, long time, obviously. I mean, well, I wouldn't say I'd lost friends because they weren't friends, clearly. But there's people now that I've been involved with for a long time, whether it be through, football or music or whatever, that now just have zero contact with, and they have zero contact with me, and I'm fine with that. People come in and out, don't they? It's one of those things. Like my attitude is very much, you do you, hun. Like, just you do you and I'll do me, and that's fine. Like Zuby said, like 98% I think of his politics is leave me alone. I mean, basically. And so I've got friends that have gone and taken the vaccine and done whatever, and they're absolutely fine with me not having it, and that's fine. You do you, whatever. But then obviously there's other groups of people that are very militant in that attitude of you have to do as you're told. And I won't be around people like that. I don't want them in my life. So I lost a few of them, but that's fine. But what I found at these protests in London particularly is a lot of people come up, and I think just because obviously me and my dad make all these videos and stuff, people recognise you and they sort of just come over and chat. And they're people that have come on their own from all over the country that are basically on their own where they are. So their friendship group is very much, well, to be fair, my mum's one of them. The friendship group is very, Rona, and the families are very Rona. And so they're on their own. And so they've kind of seen these protests and thought, and then they come along and see the amount of people, particularly last time. And it's like, fuck, this is amazing. I'm not on my own. This is great. There's more people like me. And so they then network with people and they start groups and things like this. And there's this thing called Stand in the Park, which is hilarious, really. If you think about it, it's just a bunch of people going standing in a park. But if you're on your own, in your family group, in your friendship group, and then you can go and stand with 200 other people that are like-minded, it's like, thank goodness for that. And this one lady said to me, it made me laugh at the time, just the way she said it, was that she'd left her husband at home, and to be fair, he can have the house because I'm done with him. And I laughed, but then actually think about it, actually that's really sad. Like she was like a late middle-aged woman, they've probably been married 20 years. And it's done as a result of all this stuff, which is mad. I have a very much don't trust anyone attitude. So with the protests and stuff like that, you always get, come and speak at this protest, I'll sort out somewhere to stay, I'll give you a lift, or sort of stuff. I've just become, no, you're all right. I'll come along, but I'll drive myself. I won't park where I'm told to park. I'll go and find somewhere to park. I'll walk in, I'll walk out, and I'll drive home on my own. Just raised to just question everyone, and you know what I mean? And a lot of the protests, I'd kind of, would speak, and then I'd go on a bit of a march, and then I'd go home, and you would feel almost tired, really, because it is negative having to do all this stuff all the time. Lots of, shouting and all this sort of stuff. But with these ones, particularly the last two, that you just feel energized afterwards. It's completely different, from just samba bands and stuff like that, and people just dancing around, and it's normal. It's normal people acting like humans, which shouldn't feel like it's strange, but it does after 14 months of this nonsense. I see conversations that people have about, on Monday you're supposed to be allowed to hug people, and people going, oh, I can't wait. So, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'd have more respect for you if you went, I don't want to hug someone on Monday. Because then at least you'd believe it was real and you're frightened of it and you're not going to do it. Like, okay, I feel sorry for you, but I've got more respect for that than, wow, my mum's coming around Sunday night now. I don't know, shall I? Like, it's just, nah, what are you on about? It's just weird. But then comes into the fact that the whole thing's been run by psychologists, and they've done, I don't like giving them credit, but they've done a hell of a job on a lot of the population. I've just literally been sat there and I'm reading a story where they're saying that this Indian variant is 50% more transmissible, apparently. An Indian variant of Sodal is still Sodal. But that now, if we lift lockdown, which is obviously what they're trying to stop, we will have the biggest spike out of any of them. So cases will go through the roof higher than they've ever been, and we'll be looking at over 1,000 deaths a day in the summer. Well, that's not true, that's blatantly rubbish. So for an organisation that's admitting they cocked it up before, apparently, they're now just doing it again a few days later and pushing for lockdown to come back in. It's mad, but like I say, they've done a hell of a job on people. I just saw again an article from The Independent, so it's not independent, saying that I think it was 70% of the hospitalisations in Bolton with the new Indian variant were of people that are an age of eligibility for the vaccine that had refused it. So you can see what they're pushing. They're going to blame the unvaccinated. Well, they already are. They're saying that it's the unvaccinated that create the new variants, which is of course not how science works. Well, what they've done, I mean, you can see they've put the hard sell on the vaccine, as my dad was saying about, offering people burger and fries and incentives, financial incentives. Brewdog will give you a free beer. But also then you'll lose your job if you don't have it. So there's been this huge thing. And obviously these people are generally uptaking it. So then now you've got this large group of people that don't have a job that depends on them having a vaccine. So take me, for instance, I'm not having it. I'm not being pressured to have it, and a burger and fries ain't gonna get me to have it. So they've got that large group of people that they need to now get it into, but how the hell are they gonna do that? Because that hard sell's not gonna work. So then you go, right, okay, well, let's go for another lockdown, which is gonna destroy even more businesses, gonna destroy even more people mentally, which is especially now we've started to ease out of it. We're on the Biden's chart of coercion, we're in the occasional indulgences part, So then you put it back into that affects people psychologically, destroys everything, but then you blame the lockdown on the fact that these people, me, you, others, have not got the vaccine. So the government almost doesn't have to target those people anymore because they've made the population target them. And this is why a lot of people in Israel, people as well that, were in concentration camps and survived, Holocaust survivors, have compared it to Nazi Germany. And what then people then come back because they think of Nazi Germany as that's concentration camps, that's gun turrets, that's this, that's that. And actually what these people are saying is, no, we're talking like 1935, 36, when there was this mass, kind of, again, a psychological operation to make the population despise Jewish people. And to such a point where if you came to arrest their neighbor, they'd go, yeah, get rid of them. Don't want them next door to me anyway, to create this hatred. And that's what they're going to try and do and already are with the unvaccinated. The unvaccinated are the new target. So basically, Silicon Valley is owned by these same people. So if you post a video on there that goes to a certain level, they're going to delete it. They're going to demonetize you. They'll delete your channel, which is what they've done to so many people. So then the alternative media, out of necessity, has then built separate platforms and stuff. And that's, this is what frustrates me about it, is you have these so-called private companies like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube who are banning people, deleting people, and people going, yeah, but they're private companies, they can do what they like. You start your own, complete arguing bad faith, obviously. So then people started their own, so you have your BitChutes and your Parlors. And now, obviously, they can't censor that in the same way because they're free speech platforms. Their whole selling point is they're free speech platforms. So then what you do is you then bring in a law that will do it for you. And by imposing huge fines, those companies they're not seed funded to the tune of billions. So if I put a video on there and that company, say Ray, for instance, who runs BitChute, he's going to get a $100,000 fine or whatever. If he keeps my video on there, then he's not going to be able to afford to do that. So my video goes. And the fact of the harms bill is two things. One, who defines what harm is? It's a disconcertingly vague term, doesn't mean anything. And that's obviously intentionally because they can spread it as wide as you like. But the other part of it as well is that they're focusing on things that aren't illegal. So it's a law to stop you doing something that's not illegal. And that in itself is madness. They openly admit that things that aren't against the law but can cause harm. Like I say, who defines what harm is? But they always have to have a sales pitch, because if they came out and said, you know what, we don't want any alternative information spreading, then even people that disagreed with people like us would be going, well, hang on a minute, that sounds a little bit kind of, I'm not sure about that. So they can't say that. They have to, have a sales pitch of actually, I think the main thing is that it's protecting children and things like that. So it's the same very much, I guess, with having a sat nav on your phone. If you said to someone, I'm going to put some software on your phone so I know where you are at all times, you'd probably tell them to jog on. But then if you say, oh, there's this app that you can download it onto your phone and then it can give you directions to get anywhere, you go, oh, that's wicked. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. Well, they try and do it in such a way that they don't impose it. It's like Dad always says, problem, reaction, solution. They don't have to impose it. They just manipulate circumstances in such a way that you'll ask for it. And it's easy done to manipulate people in such a way that they're begging for their own enslavement, which they are to a point. I mean, this is crazy. I had a chat with some guys in Houston yesterday, and they were saying that there's certain states that have obviously lifted mask mandates and whatever, but there's some other states, some wealthy states up sort of Connecticut way, that kind of area, where they're actually, their local governments are lobbying against the lifting of mask mandates. They don't want them lifted. And so the CDC's obviously using a carrot stick, saying that you can not wear a mask if you get vaccinated, but if you don't get vaccinated, you have to keep a mask on. But these states are lobbying against that, saying even if you are vaccinated, you have to keep a mask on. And you're just like, mate, you're just begging. You're begging for your own enslavement. It's sad to watch.